All right, let's jump right in. We're going to talk about what might just be the single most important invention of the 20th century. I mean, this thing is so small and so common that you never, ever see it. You don't even think about it. But it's the invisible engine that powers, well, everything in our modern world. I am, of course, talking about the transistor. Just think about the phone in your pocket, right? It feels like this solid, single piece of tech. But inside, it is packed with literally billions of microscopic electronic engines, all firing in perfect sync. And what's really wild is that these little engines have absolutely no moving parts. In fact, a single high-end processor, the brain inside a device like your phone, can have over 100 billion of these tiny things. That number, it's hard to even wrap your head around. So what are they? And yeah, that's the big question, isn't it? We see what they do every single day, every second of every day. But what is a transistor actually doing? What is its job? Well, the official definition says a transistor is a semiconductor device that's used to either amplify or switch electrical signals. Now, amplifying is super important, is what makes your speakers loud. But for our purposes, we're going to focus on that second job, switching, because that simple little action, that is the key to everything digital. So here's the best way to picture it. A transistor is basically a tiny, tiny electronic switch. But, and this is the crucial part, it has no moving parts. Nothing is physically flipping back and forth. It's all controlled by electricity, and it happens at a speed that is just, well, it's almost impossible to imagine. So how does this switch work? Okay, first, a very small electrical signal gets sent to what's called the gate. Think of it like a tiny key turning a lock on a massive floodgate. When that little signal hits, boom, the gate opens up. And that allows a much, much larger electrical current to just rush right through. So a tiny input controls a massive output. That right there, that's the magic trick. Now, they come in a couple of main flavors. You've got the BJT, which is controlled by a small current, but the real star of the show for modern computing is the MOSFET. This one's controlled by a voltage instead of a current, and that difference is what allowed us to make them unbelievably small and power efficient. It's why the MOSFET is the undisputed king of every processor today. Okay, so we've got it. It's a tiny, lightning-fast switch, but how do you get from a simple on-off button to something that can run complex apps, stream video, and connect to the internet? How do these little switches build a whole smartphone? Well, it all starts by giving a name to each state. We just decided that when the switch is on and current is flowing, that represents a 1. And when it's off and no current is flowing, that's a 0. And just like that, you have created the fundamental language of every computer on Earth, binary. Every photo you take, every song you stream, it's all just a very, very long string of these ones and zeros. So, check this out. This is how you combine them to make decisions. This is a basic AND logic gate, built from just a few transistors. If you look at the table, the output is only on, or a 1, when input A and input B are both 1. Any other combination, the output is 0. See? It's a simple, predictable, and totally reliable rule. And that's the whole ballgame right there. Your phone's processor is just billions of these simple logic gates, ands, ors, nots, and a few others, all wired together in unbelievably complex ways. Every single thing your device does, from adding 2 numbers to recognizing your face, gets broken down into millions of these simple yes or no decisions, all happening almost at the speed of light. This whole journey, it started way back in 1947 at the legendary Bell Labs. Then, in 1954, we got a huge breakthrough, using silicon. That made them way cheaper and more reliable. That's the moment that eventually gave Silicon Valley its name. But the real game changer was in 1960 with the MOSFET. That was the design that we could shrink and shrink and shrink again, which kicked off this relentless progress that we now call Moore's Law. To really get the impact here, you have to look at what came before: vacuum tubes. I mean, they did the same basic job, but they were these big, fragile glass bulbs. They sucked up tons of power, got incredibly hot, and they were always burning out. Transistors changed everything. They were tiny, they were tough, they sipped power, and they almost never failed. It wasn't just an upgrade, it was a completely different world. And that brings us to today. As Wikipedia puts it pretty simply, they are the key active components in practically all modern electronics.
Seriously, it is no exaggeration to say that without the transistor, none of the tech that defines our modern lives, from the internet to space travel, none of it would exist.
So, just how many of them are out there? Well, by 2018, it was estimated that humans had made about 13 sextillion MOSFETs. That is a 13 with 21 zeros after it. I honestly don't have an analogy for a number that big. It's beyond astronomical.
Let me put it another way. That number makes the transistor the single most manufactured object in all of human history. More than bricks, more than screws, more than anything we have ever made as a species. And it's not even close. And so that leaves us with a really fascinating question. For more than half a century, all of our progress has come from making these switches smaller and smaller. But now, they're getting down to the size of just a few atoms. We're hitting a fundamental wall of physics. So the question is, what comes next? What's the next invention that's going to power the next 60 years of revolution when we just can't shrink the switch anymore?